How's it going? I'm assuming if you clicked on this video that you're new to photography and you're looking to find ways to get into it and to enjoy it. Now, that is what we're going to be talking about in today's video, so stay tuned. So getting started with photography is something that can be fairly easy to do, and it shouldn't be something that is daunting. It shouldn't be something that you're worried about doing. But in order to start, let's talk about what photography is. Photography is simply an art form through the media of a camera or of a photo. Now, this could be something like capturing a story, whether you see people in the photo, whether it's landscape, whether it's wildlife, things like this help to define what sphere of photography you're going to be in. And so the first and most important part of photography is choosing what you want to photograph. Now, for me, that's a lot of different things, and that can be the same for you as well. To give a little bit of background in how I started in photography, I really started because I wanted to capture the moments that I was in. I loved to explore, especially in nature, and so naturally my gravitation was towards landscape photography and wildlife photography. Now, wildlife photography is something that I am getting into that I am nowhere near proficient in, but it's something that I do enjoy. But when I got started on an iPhone 4, I believe. It was an old phone that I had been given from my parents that they had upgraded and didn't need that one anymore. And so I didn't have a high quality camera. I didn't have the best starting out, but the purpose of this video is to help you understand that you don't need the best to start. You want to hone your skills. You want to learn as you're taking photos. And if that's the only thing you take away from this video, that would be to remember that you can start now and that you can enjoy the process and not just the final result. Again, you can enjoy the process, not just the final result. That's really important because I feel like a lot of people get caught up in the fact that their photos aren't great when they start out. They don't understand what it takes to make a great photo. I know that's something that I'm still working on, and I know many professional photographers are still working on. There's always that need to improve and to find new ways to express yourself through photography. So as you're starting out, just remember the reason why you want to start it. Is it because you want to get better at capturing selfies with your friends or taking photos of family and friends? Is it wanting to capture a moment in time of a party, of a concert? Is it a moment where you're in tranquility, you're sitting alone in nature and you want to capture that so you can remember those moments? Those are all kind of questions that you ask yourself as you're getting into photography and as you're in photography to remind yourself the joy of photography. Now, there are many things that you can use to up the quality of your photography, but a great starting point is starting with what you have. Now, that could be an iPhone, an Android, it could be any kind of phone that you have in your pocket readily available. I tend to use my iPhone a lot. I have an iPhone 10 and it still works great. It's not the best thing out there, but it works great. Now, it's important to remember that it may not be the best quality, but you'll be surprised that with the right conditions, the quality that your phone can put out. And so just remember that most people have that readily available in their pocket, in their backpack, wherever it may be, and use it. It is a great asset that you can use to improve on your quality as you are trying to find yourself and expressing yourself in a new way. Now, don't be afraid of just taking photos. Take lots of photos. One of the most important pieces of advice that I received when I was first starting out in photography was quantity over quality. When you're first starting out, you just want to take a lot of photos and get really good at being okay with taking bad photos, because as you take more photos, you're gonna realize what kind of things made the photo look bad, what kind of things made a photo look really good. Now, that's not to say just take trash photos for the rest of your life. No. What I mean by that is when you are choosing to take quantity over quality when you begin, you're allowing yourself to fail sooner while you are learning how to become more successful in photography. Now, as you're taking photos, watch YouTube videos, take classes, do what you can to improve your skills, and then use those skills in your photography as you're improving. I started photography when I was really young, but I remember that the first time I really got into photography was when I was in high school. I took a photography class where we were lucky enough to have cameras that we could check out. Now, the cameras that we had were the Canon Rebel T5i. And now that's a very basic camera for those who are new to photography. That's not a very high quality camera in the photography world, but it still performs amazing. And I'd still recommend that as a camera starting out. They can be had for cheaper, especially where more cameras have come out since then. You don't have to worry about paying an arm and a leg for a camera. Now, if you're looking to upgrade from a smartphone to a better camera, there's different cameras that can be kind of confusing as you're getting into photography. But the most important thing to remember is that whatever you can afford in your budget is what is right for you. Now, I've gone through a couple cameras and I'm actually in the process of upgrading my camera, but the one that I kind of started out on that was a little bit lower quality was this Nikon D3400. Nothing super fancy about this camera, nothing super amazing, but it does take really good photos that I have really enjoyed. Now, one of the things that this camera doesn't have that first camera that I started on in high school had was a flip out screen. Now, this camera has a great viewfinder. You can look through it and you can take some amazing photos, but it was a little bit harder because I had to look through the viewfinder every time I wanted to take a photo, rather than being able to just fold out a screen and look at the screen and be able to take a good photo. Now, for someone starting out, this could be an amazing camera. This camera has a different lens on it that's not a kit lens, but oftentimes used camera stores or used cameras on Facebook Marketplace or wherever online, like eBay, you can find a camera that has a good quality lens that may not be the most high quality camera, but that does a great job. And so as you're learning with a new camera, don't be afraid to look up YouTube videos about how the specific settings in the camera work. As you do that, you'll be able to learn your platform better and learn how to use a camera better, and that is really important. Now, an upgrade from a basic camera like this would be a DSLR that has a flip out screen. This was a camera that I actually used quite a bit before I had a lens attachment issue. This does have a screen that can flip around, so you could film yourself like this, you could take photos from low and look at the viewfinder, and it's super nice and handy to use. But something that a lot of people get confused with is what the difference is between cameras. These cameras are very similar. They are both DSLR cameras with crop sensors. Now, what that means is a full frame camera has a certain aspect ratio that can capture a much larger image. It has more pixels per square inch, or the pixel density. And so something like this is like a 24 megapixel camera. That's a pretty standard amount of megapixels for a camera, is 24, and that amount does great. Some are only 12 megapixels and still can take some stunning photos that are high quality. But where that full frame versus a crop censored camera come in is when you need to crop an image, you're losing that much more information. You're having that much less clear of an image. And so having a full frame camera is something that's super important for professional photographers who are looking to really be able to sell their photos. But if you're getting into photography and you still want some good quality photos that you can post online, post on social media, and even sell on stock photo sites, a regular crop sensor camera can do amazing things. Now, another common camera system besides a crop censored camera or a full frame camera is going to be mirrorless. Mirrorless is different in the sense that it doesn't have an image sensor inside of the camera that you use. It is a fixed sensor that is more like an electronic version. It's more like an iPhone. It doesn't have a flipping shutter that flips every time you take a picture. And that one tends to be a lot more expensive, but it can be lighter for people who want to do landscape photography and go backpacking. It can be a lot lighter for people who are doing long photo shoots and don't necessarily want the bulk of a full frame camera. But if you're going to be mainly shooting on a tripod, and you're in a studio, a lot of people do prefer a full frame camera, or landscape photography where you don't have to backpack it in, where you can set it up on a tripod and leave it. That full frame camera is nice. Now, that's a lot of information and a lot of different cameras, but what I recommend for people who are starting out into photography would be to just go for a basic crop sensor camera, something like a Nikon D series camera or a Canon Rebel series. They're usually less expensive. Now, for Canon specifically, if you're looking at a Canon Rebel camera, there's two kind of categories for the Rebels. There's the T whatever number and the T whatever number I. Now the difference between those is means that it's gonna have a flip out screen like this, versus just the regular T is gonna be just like this Nikon where it doesn't have a flip out screen. And so the higher in number you go typically means the newer in generation and the better in quality that it is as well. So as you keep that in mind, don't be afraid to scour Facebook Marketplace, eBay. Now, as you're scouring those, don't be afraid to look for something that is more used. As you're starting out, you don't need the best quality. You don't need the highest, most expensive camera. Start out with something basic, even if it just has a kit lens on it. It is something that can be really great for you to start and see if it's something you like and be able to experience something new. Now, an important aspect of photography is knowing when you need to improve and where do you need to improve. Now, some of the main areas are composition, lighting, exposure, focus. Those are all big terms that people use a lot in photography that not a lot of people understand. And so in a future video, I'm going to be talking about exposure, ISO, shutter speed, all these bigger things that you use in photography and how to help you understand them better so that they become simpler and easier to use. Now, this video is more to introduce you into what you need. And so, like I said, having a good camera and the camera that you have is what is able to allow you to start now. As you save up for that first camera that you're gonna get that is gonna be a little bit better quality. Now, I would recommend going for something that isn't the lowest quality camera. If you can afford in a budget, find something that's a little bit greater than a Nikon D3400. Now, this is a great camera and I've used it for a while now and I really enjoy it. But when I was using this D5200, it was a better experience. I did notice that there was a quality jump, but also, more importantly, the user experience of having a flip out screen is huge. It allows you more freedom to not always have to look in the viewfinder, but to be able to look at a screen on a still tripod so that you could get that camera nice and stable and level and help you to up that quality even more. Now, something that's important is each platform is different. Nikon has a very different platform from Sony or from Canon. And so as you are experiencing it, make sure that you're learning the basics of aperture and exposure. Those are all things that can be cross-platform, but also learning the specific settings and way to use your specific camera. That will allow you to jump in quality and also cut a lot of time out of errors that you may have found a really great photo, but your focus wasn't right. And knowing the difference between that manual versus automatic focus, those are things that can help you to really improve quickly. Because a lot of phones nowadays, their autofocus is really great and you're able to capture something well. But when you cross over to a DSLR or mirrorless camera, it's not always the same. There are lenses, which most lenses nowadays have an autofocus, but some aren't created equal. They're not all as great as what you might be used to. So don't be afraid to experiment. Don't be afraid to try things out. If you're not quite ready to commit to a DSLR, maybe find a friend or a family member that has one that would be willing to let you borrow it and try it out. Go somewhere and take photos at a park. Go take photos of family. Just try things out and see what you like. Now, with my photography experience, I started out really small. I would go on an adventure, go drive up a canyon and take some photos. Recently, I had the chance to go to Honduras for a medical mission where I was an interpreter, and I was able to do some side trips and take some really, really cool photos of the wildlife as well as just the experience as a whole. And that was something that I really enjoyed. That got me more into wildlife photography, but also photojournalism. That was something that I didn't think I'd like as much as I did. Being able to capture a story in an image is something that's very hard, but when you can do it, it is very satisfying. Something that I really struggled with is I don't like talking to people. I don't like to interact with people as much. I'm a lot more reserved, which is weird because I'm making YouTube videos, so you think I'd be more extroverted, but it actually takes a lot of energy for me to do. And so portrait photography is something that I started to get into more when I met my wife. I really like to take photos of her, and she is a very beautiful subject. And she encouraged me to try and take more photos, and she was so kind and willing to let me take photos and fail and find some good ones for her. But when we were married and got a dog, we also were able to do some photo shoots with him, and he's a great sport, and he has allowed us to take some pretty cool photos, and I'll put a couple of them up on the screen so you can see what we were able to do. But that got me started in the door of portrait photography, and I was able to go and show family and friends the photos that I had been taking and asking if I could take photos of them. And my wife also shared it a lot, and she's the reason that I was able to start more into photography, especially portrait photography, because she found friends that were like, oh my goodness, I'd love for him to take some photos of my kids or some family photos for a Christmas card. And I was able to learn new skills as I was doing that. And now in a future video, I will be talking about how you can turn photography into a business and how you can start today to be able to charge people for the photos that you take in a way that matches your skill level and your experience and all that you encompass as a photographer, and advocating for yourself on knowing what you can charge. And so if you're interested in that, stay tuned. I would love it if you would drop a like and subscribe, as that will help my channel to be able to continue to put out videos for you, just like being able to start a YouTube channel. And so if you're interested in that, definitely continue to follow, and I will post more videos that will allow you to see how you can improve as a photographer and really gain those skills necessary to be able to take great photos, and how to edit those photos in a way that will allow you to be set up for success as you look to sell those photos or you look to provide a service through photography. So I hope that you enjoyed this video, and I hope that you find value in these videos. If you do, all of the gear that I use is linked down in the description, and if you're interested in any of it, they are affiliate links, so they do help me out. So don't be afraid to check them out, and I appreciate your support. I appreciate all that you guys are doing. I hope that you have a great week and that you guys continue to explore and try new things. So I hope you guys have a great week.